Good afternoon and welcome to Live with Sujay. This is the final in a series of conversations with sister CEOs. If you're watching us and you're on YouTube, I want you to subscribe, press that little button below. I want you to give us a thumbs up. And after the show, share your comments. It really helps. And then share the show. We are so delighted to have you today. This is coming to you from the Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce and Charisma Speakers, a series for inspiring Black women entrepreneurs. We are so happy to have you with us today and delighted and ignited as always to have you in the audience. Towards the end of this program, we'll have time for Q&A and we'll love for you to ask your questions of us. Today, we're excited to have with us Terry Coxum. She is an executive connector. She owns Coxum Connects, and she's also the author of Peaceful Ponderings, which is the busy woman's guide for peace and centering. So welcome, Terry, to our show. Happy to have you.
Hello, Ambassador Sujay. It is super exciting to be with you today.
We're always talking about ways business women can go ahead. Our whole chamber is new. globalblackwomencc.org is our website. And what we're trying to do is be a collective where women connect, create, collaborate, businesses that are owned by Black women worldwide. So we want to be doing trade with Black women in the diaspora. We want to connect women. So you are a connector. So what's like the number one thing, if people want to be connected, what's the number one thing you say?
I say the number one thing I say is to go out there, to step out of your comfort zone, to meet new people. I always tell my students that if you're going to go to an event, that you have to at least meet 5 new people. And then with that, you have to nurture those relationships. So it can't be all about what you need. It has to also be absolutely about what someone else needs. So the number one thing is to step out of your comfort zone and go out there, meet new people.
So you talk about that. So Jane Duber says in Cautious Connections, she says that you also have to risk rejection. So if you're going to meet 5, it may be 10 that you actually greet, but only maybe 5 that you end up with. Talk about risking rejection.
So first of all, you have to understand that no, is a complete answer. Everyone says meets a no at some point. And so when you come out with that in mind, you know that you're intentional about your connections, right? And so when you go out and go into a new space and you start meeting new people, you have to understand that a part of meeting new people is going to be that rejection, and you prepare yourself for it ahead of time. And Jane is really, she's really instrumental in her strategy when she talks about that. And so you have to risk rejection. You have to step out of your comfort zone, but more importantly, you have to be intentional about those connections as well.
And so she also talks about showing up and serving. So sometimes, sometimes it's to show up because you can't make the connection if you're not there. Talk about that for us.
Absolutely. So you have to be present. You have to show up. You have to put on your game face. One of the things, Ambassador Sujay, you taught me early on as a business owner, is that not just showing up, but be prepared. So it's preparation as well, right? So she talks about showing up. She talks about taking a risk. So when you show up, make sure that you're prepared. Make sure that you know a little bit about the event. You know a little bit about who you're going to be speaking to. Be intentional about those relationships. And make sure that you're not only are you taking something away, but you're giving something back to all of the individuals that you come in contact with.
The relationship is a two-way street, so we can't
absolutely reciprocal.
Walk one way. Because you may get rejected, but there may be 7 no's, but there's gonna be 1 yes at some point.
Yes.
So I like to say the worst that people can say is no, but there is going to be a yes. And so you have to be intentional about that and consistent about that. So we talked about, preparation, but it's also for presentation. How do you and how do you present?
I love you. I love you, Ambassador Sujay. Always got some words for you. She will definitely give you a whirl. So preparation, presentation. So again, when you show up, you have to dress the part. You have to look the part. You have to be the part, right? So you have to step into whatever that is that you are looking to get out of that relationship. So say, for instance, you can't go to the Congressional Black Caucus with your sweatsuit on, right? Not if you want to be taken seriously as a serious business owner. So you have to prepare yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. Emotionally, because you will be rejected. Like you said, you might get those 7 no's, but someone is prepared to give you a yes, right? So
Mhm.
preparation, presentation, and then being intentional. All of those are things that you gotta do if you want to take it to the next level. Absolutely, Dr.
But don't
Sujay.
accept humiliation. Don't let anyone
Nah.
humiliate you. So, but so tell us about Coaxum Connects. What is your mission? What do you set out to do? This is your business.
Yeah, so Coaxum Connects, connecting you because relationships matter. So I set out to empower and encourage other people. I understand early on that that's my definitive purpose in life. And so I'm connecting individuals to resources. I'm connecting my students to elected officials, to business owners. I'm connecting my business owners to elected officials. I'm collecting across all boards, all genres, anyone that I come in contact with. I'm looking to absolutely make your life better by providing you with the resources that you need to take it to the next level. And in turn, I am overjoyed with the relationships that I'm able to establish. I'm overjoyed with the relationships that I'm able to present to others and that they're able to grow in those relationships. So that's my empowering part, empowering and encouraging other people to be the best you.
And I have
Absolutely.
to
That's what we're
thank you.
about.
I need to thank you publicly because one of those connections was helpful for me. A lot of people know that I was the U.S. ambassador at large for international religious freedom, and I had a lot of relationships. But you need others to connect you to the relationships that matter for that
Yes.
position. So it
Mhm.
wasn't just like some of the Black clergy that I knew, but I needed to know some conservatives and I needed to know some elected officials. And you made a call and you introduced me to someone that was very helpful in my getting further advanced in the process. So I want people to understand that, just because you think you've arrived, there's still there's still more growing and connecting to do. So we both served in the Obama administration joyfully, and
Yes.
you were with SBA. Tell us the position and tell us the territories you had.
Absolutely. So in SBA, I was the small business advocate and the Region 2 advocate. So I covered New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. I was responsible for working with small businesses on regulatory concerns. So I had an opportunity to travel to the territories, had an opportunity to travel to the Commonwealth, to work with the elected officials, the business owners, the banks, the lending institutions, nonprofit organizations, faith-based organizations, to make sure that we were bringing the resources to the small businesses that need it. And a lot of what I'm doing now, Ambassador Sujay, is taking those relationships that I gained from being Chuck Schumer's deputy state director, and also from being DA Hines I ran community relations for him. I'm taking all of those relationships collectively and using them in my business, Coaxum Connects. So I'm connecting those businesses with the resources they need. I'm helping them get certified as either New York City, New York State, Boston, you name it. And then after I help them get certified as MWBEs, helping them go after those contracting opportunities. Because I always say, when you get certified, that's your license to hunt. But there is billions of dollars in spend for the federal government. And so I'm trying to make sure that my businesses have access to that. So using those relationships and Coaxum Connect to make sure that we're actually getting those business opportunities so we can spend through our capability and our business acumen. Absolutely. Mhm.
So let's talk about that. I always talk about lower and slower. So tell me, I don't want us to pass over. You work for Senator Chuck Schumer as what?
I was the deputy state director for Chuck. I was the first African American woman to be in that position. So I helped to manage his 8 regional offices in New York,
And how
upstate
many
and
years were
downstate.
you with him? How
I
long?
was with him for 6.5 years.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then in SBA, how many years were you in that position?
I was in a position in SBA for almost 7 years.
And you
It
were
was a
with
few
DA
months shy.
Hines also. DA
For
Hines.
6.5 years. Yes.
Okay, so
For
we're
District
talking
Attorney
about
Hines.
6.5, 6.5, and 7 years. I want people to understand. So when you're in the post, you have to do that job. You have to
Hmm.
do what Senator Charles Schumer has hired you to do. You have to do what
Hmm.
DA Hines has hired you to do. You have to do what the SBA, particularly in government, has hired you to do. But those connections are not left on the table. At some
No.
point, you're no longer in government, but you still
Hmm.
have those relationships. So I want to talk about
Absolutely.
connecting the dots. Talk to them
Yes.
about connecting the dots.
So one of the things that we talked about when we first opened up in conversation was, stepping out of your comfort zone and going into situations that you may not be comfortable with. So how do you connect those dots, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So, I was in government for over 20 years. Nurturing those relationships in government, I am still able to contact any of the people that I've been in government with over the years because I came with my A game, always prepared,
Yeah.
always willing to help, always willing to, to go the extra mile to do more than what you're paid for.
Yeah, say that
I
again,
hear
say that again, say that again, because an
to do
entrepreneur
more.
is gonna have
Yeah,
to put in extra hours. It's not just a 9 to 4. An entrepreneur is gonna have to
absolutely.
do more than you think you have to do. So talk about that a little more.
Yeah, you have to do more than what you paid for. So it's not okay just to do, to do the bare minimum. Because then you won't step out. You won't, the shine will not light on you. You have to be willing and able to go and do more than what you're paid to do. Because let me tell you, even though there's digital marketing, that word of mouth
It's the best.
very, very powerful, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
when individuals say, hey, I hired her to get me certified, but then she went out and got me a contract and then helped me write my RFP. People like, hold on, who is this? You
Right,
know, so
right.
they want to be a part of that. So you have to be willing to go the extra mile as an entrepreneur. Sometimes you'll find that you're the only one in your office,
Mhm.
at 12 midnight, or you're the first one in there at 3 o'clock in the morning because you have to go above and beyond, because the bottom is crowded. In
Yeah.
order to get to the top, you got to be willing to put in the work, to put in the hours, to do what you need to do to stand out and stand up. So
Ooh,
you
I
have
like
to
it.
be willing to do that.
All right, getting to the top. So I always say getting to the top, staying on top without toppling over. So let's talk about, yes,
Yeah.
you have to do long hours, but let's talk about the work-life balance, which you and I do very, very well. So let's talk about work-life balance. How important is that to you?
First of all, that's extremely important. And that's why I wrote a whole book about it, Peaceful Pondering, A Busy Woman's Guide to Inner Peace. That's talking about more than work-life balance. It's talking about integration. Because the one thing that I've learned as a business owner, as a mom, as a grandmother, as an instructor, because I teach at Medgar Evers College, and doing all of those things, you have to integrate because
Hmm.
something will take priority over
Yes.
something else. And so it's hard to say, I'm going to balance my social life with my personal life, with my business life. And you have to be willing to integrate. So I have custody of my 2-year-old great nephew. If baby Andrew gets sick, my whole day now has to change because the priority now becomes taking him to the doctor and making sure he's well, right? Now, if I have a big work project coming up, that's going to take precedent over anything else that I'm doing at that particular time. And so you have to learn to integrate because if you don't integrate those things into your life, you're going to always be pulling out your hair trying to balance it out.
Hmm.
Because one thing will definitely take priority over something else, and you have to be willing, ready, willing, and able. Remember, preparation to
Hmm.
take it, whatever that thing is that's taking a priority at the time, you have to stop, take care of that, and go back to it. So you have to be willing to do that.
So Jane Duber also talks about making room in your schedule. So if you're going
Hmm.
to make connections, you then also have to have that flexibility and integration you're talking about, but you also have to
Absolutely.
schedule in time to connect. So whether that's joining the chamber, and we're going to have a lot of networking, we
Oh,
said that,
absolutely.
so whether you have to figure out where am I going to find the time to meet people that are not in my circle right now. Otherwise, you're going to stay internal and insular. So talk about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's great because I actually wrote an online class on time management, right?
Mhm.
So in that, I really talk about, time management is really about our 24 hours. We all have the same 24 hours in a day.
Mhm.
It's what you do with those 24 hours. And I like to listen to Eric Thomas. And one of the things that he talks about is that everyone has the same 24-hour day. You don't get that time back. And so I can pay for a lot of things, but I can't pay to get that time back. So it's what you do in that time that will make you successful, right?
Right.
So you have to look at that 24-hour day and you have to make a decision about the things that you need to do in that day. For instance, the social, right? we have to nurture relationships. So you have to put in time to
Mhm.
call up your friends, to check on them, especially now during COVID. You
Yes.
know, there's so many of us that are extremely strong, like you and I, that we looking out for everybody else, but who's going to look out for us? So I
Mhm.
have to do wellness checks. You know, I
Mhm.
put it in my schedule every day to check on family and friends through a wellness check. You know, I'll call them, I'll text them, you know, I'll get them on FaceTime, but I have to do my wellness checks, and
Yes.
that's important, right?
Yes. Yes.
Another thing, in that 24 hours, you have to schedule time for yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
sometimes that's the hardest thing for us to do.
Mhm.
We'll look up, we'll be at our computers from 5 in the morning, and we'll look up and it's 6 p.m. You didn't even take a break to eat, to
Right.
take a mental break, to do a take a breath. You
I
were
know I was
so
jamming
in.
some pizza in my mouth before you got on because I was like, I need to have some food in my system, you know? So definitely you have to make sure you balance that time out. What's the third thing? So it's wellness checks, time for yourself, and what else do you do?
And definitely, you know, you have to put time in there for your business growth. One
Mhm.
of the things that business owners forget to do is to pour back into their business, right? So on a daily basis, you, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, you have to look at your business and say, okay, how do I grow? How do I diversify? What
Mhm.
do I need to change? What did I do today that I can do differently tomorrow? How do I work smarter and not
Not
harder?
harder.
Like, you have
Yes.
to put time in, especially as an entrepreneur, to put growth back into your business. How
Yes.
do I, you know, get, you have to find time to collect those invoices or have someone do it for you, so that
Right.
you're pouring back into your business. You're pouring into your digital platforms now, your marketing strategies, because you can't continue just to go on all 8 cylinders and not pour back into your business. Those
Let's
are
talk
things that you
about
have
that.
to do.
Because I don't want to sweep over that because you have to invoice. A business is in business to make profit. And so
Hello.
if everything is going out and nothing's coming back to you, you're not in business. You're just a servant. And
That's
so
right.
that's
You're in a hobby. That's a hobby.
yeah,
That's
that's
not a
a
business.
hobby. So we definitely want to talk, and we're going to be doing some strategic planning and business planning to help our newer business owners and those who've been, going through COVID to sustain their businesses and grow their businesses and scale their businesses, which is one thing we don't talk a lot about in the Black community. But I want to go back to that work-life balance. So I have this formula now that's 8, 8, and 8 because we do have
Okay.
24 hours. So for me, it's 8 hours of sleep. I have to have that and I can
Hmm.
soar the rest of the day. 8 hours of work, and I have
Hmm.
boundaries. I have office hours. People who know me know Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can get me in my office. If you get inspired at 3 in the morning on Saturday, you will not hear from me until after 10 a.m. on Tuesday. And then the other 8 hours is the combination of wellness checks and playtime because I think it's important for adults to have time to play,
That's
And
right.
so getting in an environment where you can do that. And even during COVID, I mean, for me, it was wonderful being in a beach town in the summer during COVID because I love summer. I love the beach. So if you don't have that, you have to find a space that will work for you. So it may be walking around the block for a little while just to get
Hmm.
some air, particularly if you're in a household that's multi filled with many
Hmm.
families. So
Yes.
just finding that time and that space for your head to just air out and do sometimes just do nothing. I think
Yeah.
that the strength of a woman,
Take a nap.
take a nap, be still and just do nothing.
Yeah.
So not to fill that void. But the last question I want to ask you, I want to go back to Peaceful Ponderings, which is your
Hmm.
book. Where can they get your book?
Yeah. So they can get a copy of my book on my website, Coaxum, and that's COAX as an X-ray, U as an umbrella, M as in Mary, connects, CONNECT with an S.com. So CoaxumConnects.com, or they can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. All of those outlets will have the book, Peaceful Pondering: A Busy Woman's Guide to Inner Peace.
So we're going to take some questions, and Angela, our producer, is going to get some questions and answers. We ask that you put your questions in the chat box, and Angela will come on in a few minutes and give those questions to us. So if you have a question of Terry, we're interviewing Terry Coaxum. Coaxum Connects, and she's an executive connector. So tell me what an executive connector does. That mean that you stay within the executive realm and introduce executives to executives?
That means I do a combination of all things. So I am connecting on all levels. I'm connecting on all levels of government, whether it's the federal, state, or the city. I'm connecting my students to opportunities. I'm making sure that they are able to take it to the next level depending on what the majors are. I'm connecting the young people, not just the students. What we're finding is that in the fifth grade is a pivotal age for our young people, because at that point, some of them want to be adults and some want to still be children. So I'm connecting them to internships or to mentors or to faith-based organizations, just people that can pour into them
Mm-hmm.
so that they can continue to grow into who they need to be. And I'm doing that through Coaxum Connects Wellness Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And because my goal is to be the Bill and Melinda Gates of the hood, right? So I want to be able, I want to be able to take a fifth grader from fifth grade throughout college and pay for it all. So
Mm-hmm.
I want them to have etiquette training. I want them to do horseback riding. I want them to vacation in beach towns. I
Mm-hmm.
want them to be exposed to things that they wouldn't traditionally be exposed to. And then I want to give them a mentor, and not just a mentor, because everything can't be free. I want them to absolutely have internship opportunities that are paid,
Right.
and make sure that they're getting poured into. Because what I find is, if you take a fifth grader and you expose them to those things, they're going to soar. They're
Oh,
going to take
definitely.
it to the next level, and they're going to bring other people in as well, which is huge, right?
Yes, exactly. So I'm hoping, I mean, fifth grade is a pivotal point. It's when my parents actually started their family business, which is still running, and it just definitely makes a difference. So I've integrated my ministry. It's the ministry of wholeness, wealth, and wellness. So that all
Ah,
the things that I am concerned about, particularly for Black women and our families, because I'm raising
hmm,
sons.
that's
But I
right.
think it's so important that because all of us are trailblazing in some way, whether it's becoming the first Black, a woman color vice president, whether it's Coaxum Connects, we're all trailblazing in some respect. And so I think it's so important that we stay whole as we're doing it
Hmm.
and don't fall apart, don't come apart. So I hope
Absolutely.
that you join the Global Black Women, because we need your talent. And I want to
Absolutely.
remind all of you, Global Black Women cc.org is where you can go and become a member. We'd love to have you. We're growing together so that we can glow together
Absolutely.
and flow together and really rock
Ah,
this economy. Yeah, we just, we say the hand, it used to be the hand that rocks the cradle, rocks the world. We say the hand that builds the cradle, really rocks the universe. So we want to be creators and builders and owners, and there's no better chance than right now, no better time than right now. We're talking with Terry Coaxum of Coaxum Connect. And Angela, is there a question from our audience?
Yes, we have a question from Nancy Williams, who identifies herself as an entrepreneur, but her question is for both of you. How did you prepare yourself for a life in government?
ah,
Great question. I'll let you start, Terry, and then I'll
okay.
follow since you beat me to it.
So I've started preparing myself in college. So I went to John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Before that, I went to Johnson C. Smith, and I studied poli-sci, political science. And so my education was very important to me, understanding the three branches of government, understanding, regulation and legislation. And so that was one part of my preparation process, right? The second part of it was getting a mentor, making sure, I wanted someone that was in the field that I wanted to be in. And so getting a mentor was very important to me. Thank God for me that I was able to get a mentor that was already a part of the political scene. And I was Marty Needleman. I was a teller at, I'm going to tell my age, Manufacturer Hanover Trust,
Ooh.
Manny Hanny, and Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And I met Marty Needleman. He was one of my customers, and he introduced me at the time to assembly member who then went on to become the county leader, Vito Lopez. And Vito Lopez introduced me to politics. I drank the Kool-Aid fresh out the jar, not the jug, but the jar. And that's how I prepared myself. I prepared myself by volunteering first. I was a part of the Democratic Club. I volunteered. It was all hands on deck, right? And so I learned the intricacies of the community based on being on the ground. And so that prepared me. And then I was able to move to that executive level where I then started meeting other individuals that hired me to do work with them. And that's how and so my preparation process was probably a little longer than most. But I started with education first, and I stepped outside of my box and joining clubs and being a part of my work environment, and then being taking on a mentor that then introduced me to others that could take me to that next level. And that's how I prepared myself
Connections. So
all
my
the way.
career started, my late brother, Charles Johnson, was the first Black assemblyman in the Bronx, New York. At the age of 26, he beat out all the machines. He ran on the liberal line, which was unheard of. But a white politician whose name was Abe Seymour was moving on. The Jews were moving out of the area of the Bronx we lived in. And so he was looking for like the next person to succeed him, although he can't control the political process. And he kind of laid his hands on my brother. And my brother won against three times against the machine, which propelled him into the political world. And so I, like Terry, rolled up my sleeves. I ran one of his campaigns. We did the door-to-door. Back then we didn't have digital. So we did door-to-door. We handed out flyers at the subway, got a lot of no's. Why do you want me to vote for you? A lot of no's, but there were a lot of yeses who said, we will vote for you. And so he won. And because of that, he then became the head of the Black and Puerto Rican caucus in New York State. And so we went to all the dinners, and was his family filled up the tables. You had to buy a table, and his family bought all the tickets. And so we met people. Then they had a basketball game. Chuck Schumer, who was then an assemblyman, and there were two other senators played on the team. And so I got to know them as colleagues of my brother. They would drive down from Albany together and sit in my mother's living room. So Dave Dinkins, before he was mayor, Charles Schumer, Charles Rangel would sit in my mother's living room and eat fried chicken. And so they were my brother's colleagues. And so I was known as Charlie's little sister. Fast forward, then I wanted to be a White House fellow. And so I tried under Reagan. I tried under George Bush, the father. And then when Bill Clinton got in, I applied and I was a White House fellow. If you are between the ages of like 25 and 35, I would encourage you to be a White House fellow. It is a competitive position. It doesn't matter who's president. It's a nonpartisan position that Lyndon Johnson created when he was president. But if you're selected, you work at the executive level of government with either the president, the vice president, or a cabinet secretary. I was fortunate enough to work in the president's White House with Bill Clinton. And because of his faith, he tapped me as a preacher. I was a preacher, a Baptist preacher from the Bronx. And he was like, he zeroed in on that. And he started letting me write speeches for him. He let me start going to represent him at conferences. So then I was part of the inner circle of the White House, unheard of, this Black Baptist preacher. And because of that, I did a lot of work up above and beyond what we talked about. I stayed late, I went early, and I had a 9-month-old baby, I want you to know, down there who was just starting to walk. So the White House daycare would stay open to 7 o'clock, and my poor child was there till 7 o'clock. It opened at 6:30 in the morning, and that child was there. And I developed connections with the teachers because I knew sometimes I would be late. And so a teacher actually came and lived with us and brought my baby home on the days that I couldn't. So again, the connections.
That's right.
President Clinton kept me on 5 years. It was supposed to be a 1-year fellowship, but he allowed me to develop the first faith-based initiatives. And then I was part of his race initiative. And so I got 5 years of that. Came back to New York, and President Clinton comes to Harlem, where my church is. So from a 1-year fellowship, it turned into a lifetime relationship. Again, if you do a good job, as Terry was saying, where you are, people are going to say, who's the one who wrote that RFP for me? Who's the one who didn't just take me to point A, but took me all the way to point C and D? Because they talk. They talk in your face and they talk behind your back. And you hope that what they're saying is good stuff. So that was my political career. But if you're young enough, go online. It does not matter who's in the White House. because you want the experience at the executive level of government. I had to sit with conservatives and Republicans and with Democrats, but it broadened my life. And it helped me to be a person who could see the larger picture. So I encourage you, go to whitehouse.gov, look for White House Fellowship, and it takes a year to apply. So you can be ready for September 22.
Yes.
So I totally encourage you to do your best. Angela, we have another question. You're on mute, Angela.
That's because I have to stop myself from almost crying. Incredible. The next question is, how important is it to serve and give some stuff away?
Yes, extremely important. Extremely important. It is absolutely important. It's almost most important. And I say almost because, like we said before, running a business and not making any money is a hobby. So you got to be able to make some kind of income from it. But it's extremely important because service to mankind is the most important thing that you can do by way of just being here on earth, right? So you have to pour back into others. And what you'll realize is it comes back. It comes back tenfold. I promise you it'll come back. You know, there's been so many opportunities, and I'm sure Sujay can speak to this, that I've volunteered on so many campaigns. And as a result of volunteering, I've got more money out of the now candidates that want to hire me to do consulting, or they want to hire me to do their faith-based initiatives, or they want to hire me for direct some kind of networking event. Just by, like we said before, going above and beyond. When you are volunteering, it should not look like you're volunteering. It should not look like, you know, there's pain on your face because you are in a volunteer space. That should be just as important as the job you're getting paid to do, right? And people will pay attention to that. And as a result of the job that you've done as a volunteer, it will give you tenfold the service moving forward. I'm telling you, volunteering is extremely important.
Yeah, I mean, you are rewarded for your faithfulness. I mean, you know, my first job as a pastor of a major church was $9,000 a year. I went from a television position. In those days, I was working ABC as a producer, and I was making $75,000 right out of college, which in those days is the equivalent to about $300,000 now. And my mother was like, "Are you crazy? Are you sure you feel called to this?" But I felt called. And we've been talking a lot in our conversations about what your true calling and passion is. And I really felt that I was supposed to serve this community on the Lower East Side of New York. And just to see, they had a 9th grade dropout rate for like generations, like 3 decades. Everybody who came in my office said, "How far did you get into school?" 9th grade. And so I was determined that we would not only have the first class of graduates from high school, but that I would get scholarships and get them through college. And so we got 4 students full rides to Benedict College in South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. But the whole mindset of the community changed because they saw success. They saw models of success. And so I wasn't paid in dollars, what I could have been paid elsewhere, but I was paid in terms of the reward of seeing another generation that was not going to be defeated, but they were going to be the role models for the generations who followed them. And so the success of the church that's still going and growing, and that program, the multi-ethnic center that's still going and growing some 3 decades later, that's reward for me. And so as a result of serving in a church where there weren't many resources, I was able to be moved up from that church. That's where I got the White House Fellowship. From that church, I got called to Harvard University to do a major sabbatical and become an officer of Harvard. From that church, I became the first police chaplain, first female police chaplain, all because I did work there where I wasn't paid a whole lot, but the money that came in afterwards and from elsewhere, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm riding high. So you do have to put some time in, but put it in where you feel you have purpose. You know, put the time in where you want to help that person sincerely, but it's not like time to make the donuts. I gotta go here. If you're doing that and complaining, you're in the wrong place. Do it with joy. Do it with joy.
That's right. That's right. And I just want to reiterate that service piece is huge. That service piece, and Dr. Sujay knows, and we still serve. You know,
Mm,
we still some, you got to get coffee for somebody, right? We still are in the business of service. No matter how successful you are, you will still be called to service. And so service is extremely important. Be prepared to be of service to others. And because that's just by way of being here, that's just the way of just having life. Your life, you have to be committed to serve somebody.
exactly. We have one last question, Angela.
We do. So the last question comes from Tanya Anderson, who says she plans on joining the joining right away. But she was
That's
interested
right.
in
Woo, Chamber.
Ms. Coxum, she's interested in your programs, and also as a new member of the Global Black Women's Chamber, she wants to know, is there a mastermind or the programs that can support her? Because she says she
Yes,
doesn't quite have the connections that you ladies have. How can you help her?
Well, I would just
yes.
say before Terry speaks is that we will have monthly masterminds, and one of the people we're going to be bringing in is Terry Coxum and others like her. So when we say three things we can deliver: resources, opportunities, and network. So Terry's
Yes,
a part of my network, but she also is
yes.
hooked up with resources. So one of the things about the chamber is that we're a collective, and so it means
Hmm.
that we bring all of what we have and all of who we are together. So I say this every show. I say 1 and 1 equals 2, except when it's side by side, then it's 11. So we want to have the multiplying effect of us working together. There were some men as I was growing up that formed what was called a junta, which means joined together in Spanish, which meant that anything one did, they made sure the other 9, it was 10 men, they made sure the other 9 were brought into it. So we want to make sure that anyone who's part of the chamber is brought into any opportunity, that junta,
Hmm.
so that we walk together, we work together, and we win together. We want you to be successful. We want generational wealth so that every generation doesn't have to start from the beginning and say, I'm poor, broke, busted, and disgusted. That's not our language any longer. We
Hmm.
want wealth. We want wholeness. We want wellness. We want you to soar. So I want you to know that we're planning monthly masterminds. We launch tomorrow at 12 noon, and you can dial into the same station, livewithsujay.com, 12 noon Eastern time. And from there, that's the first day of October. It's the first day of Small Business Month in America. And from there, we're going to begin to announce monthly masterminds. You
That's
ain't
right.
seen nothing yet, baby girl. So join
That's
us,
right.
globalblackwomencc.org. Terry, I'm going to give you the last word before I close.
Absolutely. So and keeping in tune to that, join the chamber, join the chamber. I can't tell you how important it is to have resources that can help you compel to that next to just glide to that next level. Dr. Sujay, like she said, I like it. Walk. We walk together, we win together, right? We walk together, we work together, we win together. And so that's what the chamber is about. It's about empowering businesses. It's about bringing resources to the table, having your network, giving you opportunities, but more importantly, helping you with your technical skills. And that is going to be what the mastermind group is going to be about, giving you the technical skills that you need. Looking at your financials, it's extremely important for businesses to understand their financial picture so they'll know what they need to do. If you don't look at your financial picture, how do you know what you need, and how do you know when you get there, right? So you have to look at that. The chamber will help you with the financial picture. The chamber will help you get your business plan, your marketing plan, your digital strategy, whatever it is you need. So I say join the chamber, make it intentional when you are part of the chamber, get what you need from it. Dr. Sujay is going to make sure that you have the resources, the opportunities, so that you can walk together, work together, and win together. And so, Dr. Sujay, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your program today as we start Small Business Week on tomorrow, as we launch the Global Chamber. The
Yes.
first, absolutely.
The
And
first
so,
Global Black Women's Chamber. And
the
it's at
Global Black
11
Women's
a.m.
Chamber
It's 11
at
a.m.
11 a.m. At
Yeah.
11 a.m. Make
Mhm.
sure that you are part of that conversation. I always say to my students, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Let's not be on the menu. Let's be at the table. Just because you're not making decisions don't mean decisions aren't being made. They're being made without you. So let's be a part of the decision-making process, but
Ooh.
being a part of the global chamber. So take care. God bless. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
And
Let's build wealth together.
Yes, let's do it. Will you come back and do one of our masterminds as a member?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So let me
Absolutely.
just
Thank you so
remind you,
much.
if you haven't had a chance, thank you. You've been listening to Terry Coxum of Coxum Connects, an executive connector. Her book is Peaceful Ponderings, The Busy Woman's Guide to Inner Peace. You can get it on coaxumconnects.com or Amazon or any of the big online bookstores. But you've been listening to Live with Sujay, coming to you from the Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce, which officially launches tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Yes.
That's that 1 and 1, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just tune in to Live with Sujay again. But for today, please subscribe, please give us a thumbs up, and please leave your comments. We are so delighted to have had you. It's been all the
Thank
way
you.
live and in living color. Thank you, Terry, for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank
Have a
you so
blessed day.
much.
All right, thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.